if you're like me and a bit frustrated that inflation has been skyrocketing and that it's frankly giving us less buying power with our dollars, then you might want to watch this short video. I want to start by talking about just briefly a market that I'm sure most, if not all, would be familiar with, and that would be a CD or a certificate of deposit. It happens to be a $2 trillion market, and one that many investors use to at least to some degree as an instrument to hedge against inflation. While the rate of return is not necessarily directly related to inflation, it happens to correlate to inflation often. And so what I'm going to do a little old school here today, not going to get out calculators and computers and all that kind of stuff, but just literally use this whiteboard to show you a few things that I think you might find interesting. So if you can see my whiteboard, on the left-hand side, I'm just going to put CD over here. And as a result of that, I guess that's your right, but you can still follow along with it. Not a professional video, but some information that I think you're going to find that's really, really important. So people choose to delay gratification by locking up some of their money into CDs by promising that they will leave it locked up for an amount of time. And as a result, the bank agrees to pay a rate of return or a yield on that money. As long as you do what you say that you're going to do, it is quite fair. You agree to it, and at the end of the term, at the maturity of the CD, you receive exactly what you were told that you were supposed to get. And so that's a pretty cool instrument to be able to use. However, in today's day and age, the yield is just not that great. So what I want to talk to you about at the same time is a concept that's almost identically the same, except for it's a digital certificate of deposit. So over here, I'm going to say digital CD. And instead of like the method for obtaining a certificate of deposit, being a bank or a credit union, here you become your own bank. We'll get into a little details about how that's possible to do, but would you prefer to be receiving the kind of profit that a bank does, or would you rather be receiving just a small portion or fragment of what's possible? So you can be your own bank. So we talked about that what you're actually getting is yield as a result of locking up your funds. And so that's a pretty good thing to do, and it is fair, and it's usually based on the longer that you are willing to lock up your funds, the higher the rate that you might get for those funds. There are some things called jumbo CDs that can vary based on the amount of money, but they're generally over $100,000. So just in typical, you get a little bit better rate if you're willing to put your money in for a longer period of time. And that can vary from a few months to up to 5 years in the traditional world of CDs, as you probably know. However, in the digital CD, there's some additional tools that are even better. You still are earning yield. Hey, don't mind my handwriting, it's not so good, but the information is very good. And this is even more fair. And why is that? So it was fair that you're making a yield based on a promise of time, but what if not only was longer a way for you to receive a larger portion, but what if also the sooner that you get a digital CD, and what if also you were rewarded for a bigger amount being placed in this digital CD? So that's pretty cool. So what does that really mean in terms of dollars? I'm going to use a really small fraction here, and we'll just say $1,000. In this case, I'm just talking about US dollars, but $1,000. We can all understand that. It becomes really easy to multiply. If you got 1,000 of them, it's a million, or wherever you want to be. So if we look at locking this up for a period of 2 years, as an example, what we would receive from a traditional CD, today's rates are about 4.3% for locking up for that period of 2 years. And so what you would end up coming out with is about 8.8% on your money. So if I got 8.8% on $1,000, you know that I'm getting what, $88 over 2 years. That's not so appealing to be able to do. Not so good. But it's better than not getting any interest, and it is fighting or a hedge against inflation to a degree. However, on a digital CD, what we could be looking at is a much different kind of a return, a much larger amount, where we could be looking at 40% over that 2-year period. I don't know which you like better, to be able to see something like 8.8% or 40%, but I like the 40% much better. However, the 40% can actually be even greater than that because there are penalties. So we know that in a traditional CD, if you say that you're going to lock up your CD for 2 years and you go to the bank early, what are they going to do? They're going to charge you a penalty. And so you might not receive, for example, all of the interest or yield that you would have received earlier. What if in a more perfect, almost Nobel Prize worthy way, it were possible that when people, being people that sometimes don't keep their words, and they had to forfeit some of their yield because they didn't honor their word and keep it for the full time, instead of the bank receiving the money, what if you got paid a portion of the penalties? Pretty cool. What if in addition to that, here we have a fixed asset being, in this case, we said a US dollar or whatever fiat that you might be dealing with. The value of it seems like it's the same. A dollar is a dollar. Well, a dollar has a less buying power over time, but it is a fixed asset. Here in a digital asset, we have also the ability for that asset to appreciate as well. APPR. So we'll just kind of make that a little easier to see here. So what if on a digital CD, you were the bank, you got the known yield based on what you said. It was even more fair because you were getting paid more for having your money locked up longer. You were getting paid more by doing it sooner before others get in to do the same kind of thing. And you're getting more if you put in a larger amount. And you're looking at a 40% return over a period of 2 years compared to an 8.8% return. And on top of the 40%, you're able to receive some of the penalties from others that didn't honor their word, and that there was an ability for the asset to actually appreciate. In this case, in this exact example, if I went back 2 years in time, over here on the digital CD, it also went up 250% for the asset. So if we were talking about $1,000, we now know that we would have, for example, $2,500. Plus, we're getting 40% on top of that money. So when you begin to look at the compounding effect of it, it's tremendous compared to something else. Also, in most cases, the CD time is something like 60 months for a maximum lockup. Here, it's actually possible for your APY to go from, this was roughly calculated at 18%, to end up at 40, but it's possible to actually get 38% APY on your digital CD. 38%. imagine what that does over time. That is a huge, huge thing. So here's the way I think about it. We can be in a very traditional, nice, safe, give us a little bit of yield, or we can move into what is a digital CD. We can become the bank, we can receive yield, we get paid in a more fair way as the bank. We're paying ourselves by putting funds in longer, sooner, and bigger. By the way, longer can be also up to 15 years in time. Huge what you can do with this. Not only can you have a digital CD, you can do it in strategies like you would in traditional CDs. Maybe I even want to set up a ladder so that I have the maturity coming out at different intervals of time. So what if I said, hey, I want to make a staking ladder and I want to make them, one for each year coming out? Or what if I even want to break those down into different instruments at a time? You have all of that ability to be able to do within the asset itself. And so this, to me, is like having a money printer, which means that every day, what it's doing is calculating for you based upon the agreed upon yield, based on how long and how big that you put it in. And also what it's doing is it's paying you for the fact that some will not honor their word and that there will be penalties associated. So the amount that you can receive in return definitely not only becomes a hedge against inflation, becomes something that is growing money at an exponential rate. So how do we learn about this? How do we figure this stuff out to be able to be in the world of a digital CD? It's really simple. The one thing that you're going to do is go to hex.com and read and watch, and you will be amazed. This is actually Nobel Prize worthy. If we can get a handle on how that we're able to take our funds and to be able to make from those far better yield than any other asset class, we can be in a position to win. So I hope that this was helpful. Take care and God bless.